Michigan Snow Forecast Gold Standard Road to 10,000 followers starts with you, as this is the top free, most accurate, informative, and educational weather forecasting and snowfall prediction, free, I might add, on YouTube and Facebook. And we're going to explain a little bit into detail with the video version of the forecast that we have over the next 3 weeks. As I do not believe winter is done yet, as I believe the end of February, after the 20th or so, working on into March, is going to be below normal with chances for snow. And the last 40 or 50 years of the record since the satellites got up there in the late 60s and early 70s, and we started keeping track of this, the fall and wintertime northern hemisphere snow has been increasing at a rapid rate. And has set several records for yearly snowfall extent in the northern hemisphere in the fall time, and it's been rapidly increasing since the satellites took effect in the late 60s when we started keeping track. And you can see we've had a steady increase in million square kilometers of snow on the ground, an average in about 1967 in the fall time of about 18 and a quarter square million kilometers, and now we're at about 20 and a half square kilometers. So we've increased quite a bit, and you can see the graph there, especially over the last 15 years. And some believe, and what I believe, is as you've had the oceans warm, the warmer oceans put out more water vapor into the atmosphere, and that water vapor affects temperatures primarily at the poles more drastically, and that's where most of the warming's been in the satellite era. It's been in the northern and southern hemispheres wintertime months. If you look at distortions from average in the wintertime versus summertime at the poles, it's quite the opposite. In the summertime in the northern hemisphere at the pole, it's been average to below average summertime temperatures over the last 20 years, right? And the wintertime temperatures have been drastically warmer, but it's still cold up there in the wintertime. It's just been above the mean, right? And you can see the snow extent in the fall has drastically increased, and that's through 2021. The wintertime snow extent, I only have through 2010 here. And actually, from 2010 to 2022, we've set several records for northern hemisphere snow extent. And if I had that data on here, the trend would be up, not as much as the fall, but it would be trending up in the wintertime. And where the snow has been less has been in the springtime and the summertime, especially in the northern hemisphere. But what I believe is you have more snow falling in the northern hemisphere because the oceans have warmed up slightly, which puts more water vapor into the atmosphere, which makes it slightly warmer at the poles in the northern hemisphere. And the more moisture you have up there, it snows more in the fall and the wintertime now. Yes, temperatures are slightly warmer up there, but that extra added water vapor that's making it slightly warmer is adding more moisture up into a still below freezing, well below freezing atmosphere, and it makes it snow more on the land, right? So that's why you're having the snow extent in the northern hemisphere. In my own personal opinion, and a lot of other meteorologists and scientists believe that is a naturally occurring climate change mechanism. Whereas the ocean's warm, the water vapor gets pushed out into the atmosphere, and then it starts to snow more at the poles. And the more snow that develops and collects on land has to melt in the springtime, and snow is cold, and snow melt, the water is cold, and that drains into the rivers and the tributaries that end up getting into the Hudson Bay and getting out into the North Atlantic, which over time, over decades of more snow, that snow melt starts to run off and starts to change a naturally occurring oscillation called the North Atlantic Oscillation, which is the sea surface temperatures in the North Atlantic. And they'll eventually start to, as they've been above normal for 25 years, which is a naturally occurring oscillation, that snow melt will help actually cool and start to switch the oscillation and the overturning circulation up there and put it into a negative or a cold phase of the North Atlantic Oscillation, right, and the Arctic Oscillation. But as I digress, we look at our week 1 temperatures, which go through now through the 16th. I expect the cold air with storminess to be crashing into the west coast and into the desert southwest of an area of 10 to 20 below normal, and then a widespread 3 to 6 below normal. As up over the top into Canada, we get Pacific air crashing into northwest Canada, bringing in over top of the Rockies and over top of the mountains in western Canada. As it comes over the top, it condenses and it warms, and Pacific air becomes even more mild as it gets further and further inland. And I have a well above normal Canada and eastern 2/3 of the nation, 3 to 6 in the lower 48, and then 6 to 12 in southern Canada in the extreme northern tier. As we work our way into week 2, February 16th to 23rd, the pattern starts to change. As we start the pattern on the 16th with a bunch of low pressure still on the west coast and up into Canada, but as we work our way in towards the 20th to the 23rd, we have a drastic change of more high pressure in northwest Canada and more high pressure on the west coast, and it starts to dry out as we work our way towards the end of this period, the 22nd and 23rd, the 20th to the 23rd. It starts to dry out on the west coast. High pressures and pressures start to build on the west coast. It starts to block the warm Pacific air, and cold air starts to build in northwest and central Canada and starts to spread to the east and to the south as we work our way to about the 20th to the 23rd of February. And then you can see the warmth has migrated to the east and into the central plains and the high plains. It starts warm, even though it says 3 to 6 above normal. In North Dakota, South Dakota, and Montana, it starts warm but ends cold by the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. It could be well below normal with Arctic air already starting to push into the upper plains, because that's just a combination of the 7 days. The front 4 days are going to be very warm, but the final 2 or 3 days are going to be very cold, right? The same thing as we push our way even into the heartland of the nation. The front 5 days are going to be very warm, and the final day 6 and day 7 could be very cold by the time you get to the 22nd and 23rd. And then as you see a big time flip now, as from the 23rd to March 2nd, the last week of February, the cold air starts cold down in the desert southwest, but it's going to end warm there. And then you can see the cold starts to push its way onto the east side of the Rocky Mountains, getting into North and South Dakota, Montana, and starts to spread southeast into northern Nebraska, and then the upper Midwest and the northern Great Lakes, and all through central and eastern Canada. We get overspread with much below normal temperatures. The Ohio Valley into southern Great Lakes and the interior northeast, north of the Mason-Dixon line, it starts warm maybe on February 22nd and 23rd, but then it ends very cold February 25th and 26th, 27th and 28th. It ends very cold, right? And I think we're going to have a nice wintry pattern, sort of like what we had to end January before the warm-up, right? Like, subscribe, and share. Peace and love.